Here we are again.
Hi, we're back. And in case you hadn't noticed, we were on the dive boat, and we are coming back from Grand Cayman with a bag of cash, and we were waylaid, or they tried to waylay us, and they did not succeed. They managed to run their boat aground on the reef, and they couldn't swim. Now, we took a vote, basically. Beth, Gary, and me all voted to leave them right where they put themselves in a situation. Normally, you're out in the ocean, you have another boat in distress, and you're under obligation to rescue or to provide help. But considering the circumstances, we decided to leave them right where they were, and did not go close or offer any aid, and left them there on the reef, which was about 30 miles offshore. So they really was not an idea they could swim. They couldn't swim anyway, but we don't know exactly what happened or how what happened or happened after that, but we weren't bothered by them anymore, ever. And I continued to go back to the island years and years and years, and nobody ever heard of them, nobody ever heard of what happened to them, or nobody was bothered by anybody like that ever again on the island. We, just like everybody says, you know, the Caribbean is gorgeous, the beaches are fabulous, the company was good, but after a while you start thinking about things like Kentucky Fried Chicken, or Burger King, or, you know, it just, the food is different, and the stores and the things, you know, you just get used to living in the United States. It's tough to change all of a sudden, especially on such a small island. The money made from harvest was split up by a predetermined method. Everybody on the island got a good piece of cash. I ended up with $5,000. Now, I came to the island with about $20. So here I am. I had a fantastic time, a unbelievable adventure, had a really cute girlfriend, saved a little girl from drowning, and took care of the bad guys, and was leaving with over $5,000 in my pocket, because I was getting paid by the week too. They all didn't want to see me go. I didn't really want to go, but I needed to get back to the family and try to, you know, my original plan was to move to the Keys, which I was going to do after I got back. Now that I had some money, I was able to move down to the Keys and continue my pirate career, which I did. When I got back to when I got to the airport this time, there was a plane waiting, which was kind of nice, because I began to wonder whether the plane was ever going to show up. But it was a small airline called Red Carpet Airlines. They didn't have a lot of planes, and if one of them broke down, it just didn't go. There were no you know, spare planes to send out. So I got back on the plane, flew back to Tampa, you know, no problems, no adventures, no nothing exciting on the way back to Tampa. And I had bought a 78 Dodge van, a new Dodge van. It was stripped inside, and I started working on it right away to build it into a camper to take to the Keys. I was going to move down there, and rented a campsite at Sunshine Key Campground, which is just on the other side of the 7 Mile Bridge. You could actually get a campsite right on the beach with electricity. I had a little air conditioner, a little refrigerator, and a double bed in there. It was very comfortable and very much fun for a single guy. I had a small boat I'd bought with the money from the Caymans, little Orlando Clipper with a 65 Mercury, and I loaded it up and headed to the Keys, where I continued my career, and I always seemed to be in either the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't know which it is, but just like with the little girl who had drowned, just like with the the asshole Hector who was trying to injure a friend. I was always around at these times. You know, it's kind of strange that this is a recurring thing my whole life. You know, whether it was the little fat kid in school getting beaten up by the bullies, or some poor woman, you know, being taken advantage of, I was right there and never hesitated to act. Dad, all that training of Dad's into the Marine Corps, self-defense, and all the things he taught me about weapons handling, and all the lifeguard training, and first aid. And Dad said, you know, a lot of nice, smart rules that I've followed, you know, my whole life, that said basically, you know, if you're going to pull a weapon, use it. Don't pull it and point it and talk shit. We'll use it, which I did. My whole life I followed what he said. And it turned out that, you know, you hate to admit it sometimes, but Dad was always right. I mean, especially about anything like that. It served me well. I never killed anybody, but I sure scared the shit out of a lot of people who thought they were going to die. And Dad said a lot of times that was better than actually killing them, just to scare them. And so I followed his teachings whenever I could. I did what my grandmother had taught me, which was to treat women well. And I had a lot more adventures in the Keys, because at the time I moved down there, that was the thing. Square grouper was going big time. That was the whole thing. Everybody was looking for bales. Everybody was transporting bales. Everybody was selling bales. The whole thing was just one big cowboy show going on down there with weed and bales. And you was nothing to hear about some floating up on the beach. You was nothing to hear about somebody had a house full of weed on the ground, on the floor, trying to dry it with fans. It was continuous something to do with weed all the time, because they were bringing in, every winter they were bringing in freighters. They were dropping off 1,000, 5,000 bales into small boats, and the small boats would take them in the shore almost every time there was bad weather. The weather was bad, the wind was blowing, the bales were coming in. And this is the environment that I moved into. I mean, I didn't know at the time it was exactly like that, but that's the way it was. And you know, unbelievably, I ran into more South American assholes who wore their little white suits. I guess they all watched Miami Vice on TV, you know, and that's what they thought they were supposed to wear. And I had a continuous run-in, because you were either a drug smuggler back then in the Keys, or you were a pirate. Now, I met up with some other pirates, friends of mine, made some of my best friends I ever had in my life, and I didn't really, wasn't interested in that world of being a drug smuggler and things, you know. That wasn't what I was into. I'd seen my father do it, and it changed him a lot, so I was, you know, pretty much decided that I was not ever going to get involved in that. Now, one of my best friends had a father who was a lawyer, and I credit him for the fact that he kept us, me and his son, out of the drug business. Because at that time, you could get a boat trip, $10,000. They paid $10,000 a night to run a 24-foot T-craft with a 235 Evinrude on it out to the reef, pick up bales, bring them back to the dock. The only problem was they didn't tell you at the time whether you were the one who was actually going to pick up a bunch of bales and bring them back to the dock and get paid, or you were the one who was going to pick up a few bales and go on a wild goose chase with the police and the Marine Patrol and get caught and put in jail. They didn't tell you that, but they set you up just to do that, so that all the police and Marine Patrol and Coast Guard would be down the other end of the Keys, the other end of the island, while the real loads were coming in to the north end of the islands. So it was an ongoing battle. You know, you took the boat, you went out, and you got caught, You didn't get paid. You got put in jail. Excuse me. And you had to get your own way out of jail. I mean, it wasn't a huge, time in jail, but it was a lot more than I wanted to spend. Never went to jail, so I wasn't fixing to start. So he told us one day, my best friend's father, that he ever heard of or thought or found out that we were drug smuggling, that he would see to it that we were caught, we were imprisoned, and incarcerated to the fullest extent of the law. Now, I was not afraid of the Marine Patrol. I was not afraid of the Coast Guard. I wasn't afraid of anybody. But I was afraid of that man. He told me that. I looked him in the eye and I said, yes, sir. We'll make sure we don't. That will be the end of it. And it was. I mean, we had a lot of run-ins with smugglers. We had a lot of problems with them, being a pain in the ass because we wouldn't take the job. But I always had the feeling that I was going to be the patsy. I was going to be the one with a few bales with all the cops and all the Coast Guard chasing me, which just because I wasn't South American, I wasn't from Colombia, I wasn't from Venezuela, and I didn't hang out with those guys, so I wasn't one of their clique. And I was right, I was the thing to do, was to stay out of it, because we made money on the sidelines of this whole process. Once I got into the Keys and moved down and been there a year or so, made a couple friends, we realized that at the boat yards there was all these boats stacking up, and most of these boats that they used in smuggling, they had no identification on them. They had no FL numbers, they had no titles, they had no names, nobody associated with them. They just used them. They took them from the marinas where they paid monthly service fees and drove them at night and brought them back to the marina, and marina employees cleaned them out and put them back in the racks. So when we started noticing these boats stacking up at the boat harbors, they started having auctions. So you could go to one of these auctions and you could buy a really nice boat, providing that the drug smuggler who actually owned it wasn't there bidding against you. You could get a boat for $1,000, $2,000 for a $20,000 boat. Nice, new running boats. Mm-hmm. So we would buy them, clean them up, fix them up a little bit, and sell them. Mm-hmm. And we always had a nice boat of our own to use. So I guess that got word of that to the drug smugglers, and that they didn't like it. They didn't like the fact that we were buying the boats that they were supposed to go and buy for next to nothing, because they were intimidating all the other bidders. And so they started to attack our stuff. We would go out in the morning, find one of our boats in the Mason sunk. We would go out and the next morning find all the tires on our truck flat. And that really pissed me off, because that's a big pain in the ass and a big expense. You got a lot of work to get the boat running again, get it righted back up, the water out of it, the engine cleaned, and not to mention your tires weren't cheap either. So we had bought a really, really nice 24-foot Donzi that one of them had used, I think, mostly as his disco pleasure boat. It was an open fisherman, but it was very, very seaworthy. I've never seen a more seaworthy or more comfortable, drier boat anywhere in my life than a 1976 24-foot Donzi El Pescador. If you're ever familiar with Donzi, you can look those up and see them. They're rare. They only made about a dozen or so. Don Aronow, the company owner of Donzi Boats, Magnum Boats, Cigarette Boats in Miami, built boats for the drug smugglers. He built $500,000 Blue Thunder 50-footers, and he built them for the DEA. Well, that pissed him off. Get something to drink, and we'll stop the video here and start it again. Thank you.